outrageous, totally groundbreaking. It's time for another hour of the Gospel Roundtable. So don't miss it. You should call or tell a neighbor and stop procrastinating. Join in on the live conversation. 214-787-1160. I know you know. It's the best gospel talk show on radio. 4 o'clock p.m. Saturday, weekly. Turn your dial to 1160 KB. Talking with ministries, pastors, and some local talent. Some of the best interviews is going down in this hour. So tell a friend, listen in. I hope you don't mind. KVCEradio.com. Yup, it's online. And you gonna be feeling some type of way if you miss the gospel hot topic of the day. INJ has spoken. You've got the right station. It's about to get started. The Gospel Roundtable. Yeah.
All right, y'all. That's right. It's another beautiful Saturday outside. It's a little drizzle, so y'all be saying, man, it's raining outside. But hey, I still see it as a beautiful day because, you know, like we said, it's not your attitude, but your aptitude. Let's get with it on another great Saturday right here on the Gospel Roundtable. And I am your host, Darryl McGriff, and always on the side of me, you know, the little rib that God laid me down, took a little bone out the side of me. The bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. The missus.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be back in studio again today.
There you go, grabbing that mic like you're a rapper again. I don't know what's up with you, MCD. And next to her, always the busy bee. But guess what, y'all? The busy bee is actually on time. She out there, she will wait for us to get to the studio today, boy. You can't beat that.
Hey, I'm trying to set a new precedent
there
here.
You go, Miss Kathy Hawkins.
How you doing, Metroplex? It is a great day that the Lord has made. Rejoice, and let's all be glad in it.
And then around the corner from her is the divine diva herself, Miss Chevelle Hennington. What's up?
Happy Saturday, everyone. I hope you all enjoying your day.
And next to her, he says he's the better half, but we will still have to see on that one. Ladies and gentlemen, the elder speaks, Mr. J.C. Hennington.
Hello, everyone. Happy weekend. See, I didn't even put a time because you keep catching me on there.
Oh, and I was ready for you today. I was ready for you today.
You didn't say good morning.
So I just say hello.
I went to Yahoo Answers and I got exactly. You want to know exactly when morning afternoon is?
What is the
All right, then. Here it is. This is it. Morning is from 5 a.m. to 11:59, not 11:30-ish and preparing for 12 o'clock, but 5 a.m. to 11:59. Noon is from 12 to 1. Afternoon is from 1 to 5:59. Our show is in the afternoon. You good now?
You look at her. Just because you got that book, you know, Internet for Dummies, or for seniors. I commend you.
Every time we come on, you be like, good evening, people. Good
That's
evening.
why I just
How
say
you
hello.
evening?
That's why I say hello.
What's up with that?
And see, I even you ranking on me even when I say hello.
No, that was good. I'm just letting you know when the morning time, when the afternoon is. But right now, Vinos, what's up with it? What's up?
What's up, Doc?
We are asking everyone to join us while we're having our wonderful comedy night on March the 30th at 8 p.m. at the Rock 101 in Little M. We're going to have Al Fink, Carolyn Murray, Jason Earls, Miss Vicky, and hosted by Kelly Wick. So do want to invite everyone to come out. The address is 2833 El Dorado Parkway, Suite 301 in Frisco, Texas. Again, that's Rock 101, Thursday, March the 20th at 8 p.m. Also asking to join us on March the 31st at AMC Grapevine for the screening of God's Not Dead at 7 p.m. And of course, on April the 5th, Texas Motorplex in Ennis, Texas, the crew of the Gospel Roundtable will participate in the Great Bull Run. It's Pamplona, Spain, in our backyard. Go to our website for more information and sign up for fun and adventure. That's all I got.
Oh, that's all you got? Okay, well, what's up, Kathy?
Well, you know, as always, every year I do the Relay for Life, which is a fundraising part of the American Cancer Society, and this year will be held on May the 16th at the Grand Prairie High School. And of course, always it's one of those family fun events where everybody can come out and bring your tents and everything and camp out overnight and have fun with us.
All right, and what's up, D?
Hey, I'm busy carrying the word forever free, getting God's people free and those who are not even in the body of Christ. So if you have something that you need to be free from, check me out on the website, foreverfreenow.com. Get free, stay free.
All right, and now, ladies and gentlemen, for your church directory.
Althea Temple Church will host their annual Women's Day. The guest speaker will be Reverend Carol Gibson of the St. Andrew's United Methodist Church in Fort Worth on March the 30th at 11 a.m., 2700 Village Creek Road, Fort Worth, Texas, 76105. Author Sherry Watts' book, Concept to Cash, is still available on Amazon.com or at www.sherrywatts.net. Learn how to publish, edit, and market your book for under $20. And if you're looking for a church home, consider Covenant Church, Crossroad Campus. Services are Sunday at 10:45 a.m. and Wednesday at 7 p.m. Covenant Church, Crossroads Campus, 8690 Liberty Road, Crossroad, Texas, 76227. The main phone will be 940-365-1395. To have your church or event announcements added to What's Up, go to our website, www.thegospelroundtable.com, and join in. And that's What's Up.
What's up? All right, that's what I'm talking about. So, hey, you know what you're listening to? This is the Gospel Roundtable right here every Saturday from 4 o'clock. That's when we started. And if you want to get in on the conversation, call 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160. Also, Jason is managing the board over there for the Facebook. So if you want to Facebook, just go to the Gospel Roundtable and Facebook us. Also, if you want to text your questions in, you can text the word gospel to 469-605-2600. That's 469-605-2600. That's how you can get a hold of us. But right now on the Gospel Roundtable today, we are going to discuss depression, because I know some way, some form, somebody has always or just about gone through depression, and I'm sure there's different levels of depression. So to discuss that today in studio, back with us once again is the ladies from the PrisonBreakers LLC, Miss Erica and Miss Tracy. What's up, ladies?
Hey, how are
Now, you're gonna have to put that mic straight to your mouth. Just take it like you're a rapper. That's like, there you go. Just grab it.
You just don't want me to rap, though, right?
Well, if you got some skills, go for it. Now, we ain't mad at you now. So, speaking of depression, are there like different levels of it, or is just like depression is one of them things you just hit it and it knocks you out, or what?
There are different levels of depression. And depression is described as being sad or blue or glum. And sometimes people really don't know that they're depressed. And there are levels. There are mild. You can have a mild depression, a moderate depression, or a severe depression. And when it comes to being depressed, there are a lot of symptoms that come along with that. And so that's the reason why sometimes people don't recognize that they have depression. And some of the symptoms include agitation or restlessness, anger, frustration, lack of energy or fatigue, inability to sleep or sleeping too much, appetite changes, eating too much or not eating enough. It can also include thoughts of death or suicide or the inability to concentrate. But what makes it a clinical depression is when it interferes with your everyday life. It's like forcing yourself to get out of bed to do anything, and it interferes with your ability to work, to parent, to maintain friendships. It also affects adolescents and teens' inability to function in school. But teens may experience depression differently, and their depression comes out through their behavior, so behavior in school.
Okay, so that almost sound like the HDD stuff and all that kind of stuff you described there.
Well,
so
right. I mean, it could,
if you depressed, or you strung
right,
out.
Right. I mean, it could be depression, but and it could be ADD. But you have to have a thorough evaluation in order to determine what it is.
And then also all those symptoms you described sound like one of the pills I take. It could be restless, sleepless, headache, bowel movement. Oh, what? No. What?
But that's the biggest thing. Does it cause distress? Because we all get depressed. We all get sad every now and then. But when it lingers, when it's a long-term depression and you can't function, you can't go to work, you can't maintain relationships, having problems in your marriage, that's what makes it like clinical depression.
Okay. So you can have a mild. You got something right quick? Nope. Yeah, because I think when I got divorced the first time and my wife, took my daughter, and my daughter was my heart, I think I was depressed because it was like I ain't even want to stay in the house no more. I ain't want to come back to the house no more. I went and stayed with a friend and just hung out over there, just only came back just to get some clothes and go to work. But I was like, that must be some kind of depression right there. But we're going to finish this talk on depression when we get back after this break. You're listening to the Gospel Roundtable today, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking depressions, and we have the ladies from the Prison Breakers LLC in here with us. So we'll be right back on the other side of this break. Get your questions ready. Call 214-787-1160. This is the Gospel Roundtable.
Jehovah reigns forever. Jehovah reigns forever. Let's worship him together.
Get ready, North Texas. The Spanish tradition of running with the Bulls is coming to the Dallas area April 5th with the Great Bull Run. Experience the thrill of a lifetime as you run a quarter-mile track with 18 stampeding bulls hot on your heels. Not brave enough to run with the real bulls? No problem. This day-long festival has something for everyone. Rockin' music, cold beer, tasty food, mechanical bulls, and Tomato Royale. An insane tomato food fight free-for-all. Come to watch, come to run, come to throw tomatoes at your friends. But whatever you do, don't miss out on the craziest festival this side of the Atlantic. Thousands of adrenaline junkies just like you are already signed up for this once-in-a-lifetime adventure. So get your tickets today before they're gone. The Great Bull Run and Tomato Royale. 2 great events in one epic festival. Saturday, April 5th at Texas Motorplex in Ennis. To sign up or learn more, visit thegreatbullrun.com. That's thegreatbullrun.com.
This is Elder J.C. Hennington, co-host of the Gospel Roundtable. The most exciting hour is Saturday at 4 p.m. on KVCE 1160 AM. And watch out for our hot topic. They are on fire.
Are you really trying to get your praise on? Are you really trying to get your praise on? 'Cause I'ma dance. Yes, I'm really trying to get my praise on.
Yes, y'all. We're trying to get our praise on right here on the Gospel Roundtable. But right now, we're talking about depression. We want to make sure that we get this bad boy looked at and have you to look at yourself or look at your loved ones, your teenagers, whoever it is, anyone you're concerned about, so you can recognize the signs so you can get them help as soon as possible. And to talk about that once again in the house on the Gospel Roundtable, we have Tracy, we have Erica, and also I was leaving out Mr. Edwin Mosley Jr., not the track star, but the Prison Breakers LLC partner. So, Tracy, let's get back to it. Let's break down the different types of depression.
Sure. Depression can be there can be a biological cause for depression, and it goes through the genes, and it can be something that runs through the family, and it's caused by a chemical imbalance. Doctors are not quite sure what causes depression, but sometimes depression can be caused by a chemical imbalance. And then sometimes depression can be caused by situations or triggers is what we call them. So something's going on in your life. It could be a death in the family or a divorce, a separation, or just a life transition, which causes the depression. And also there's different types of depression. So there's a depression that we call major depression. That is, the symptoms become exacerbated by those life stressors. And there is a longer term depression called dysthymia, which a person could have had depression for many, many years and still be able to function, but still have some struggles with maintaining relationships, some problems on the job, and in different areas of their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was just going to say I can really identify with a state of depression because I've actually gone through it at the time when my ex and I were going through our breakup. But it affected me to a point to where I just didn't like or didn't trust or just I went through what I call my man-hating stage because I didn't want to look at any man and didn't want him looking at me in any way because I was really angry and depressed. But it did lead to me, and then for the one and only time in my life, I never considered it. It was for a split second that I even thought that I didn't even want to be here because of I had my kids and also, then after that, I had to ask for, repent and ask for forgiveness of that thought. But I went through a cycle of what I call binge eating and purging. So I started developing eating disorders based on the state of depression that I was in. But with prayer and, a lot of prayer and just putting myself back into things, then I got over that.
And my situation was similar to yours in that I buried 2 babies. And there was about 2 years in between the time when I buried them. And it's very difficult for anyone to lose another person that's special. It's even more challenging when it's a child. And my symptoms were not as obvious. I literally just couldn't sleep. And I thought maybe it was just, I'm just not tired. I'm not tired. And this period went on, and I noticed I was sleeping less and less. And after a couple of hours, my thoughts were racing. And during that time, those racing thoughts, you start questioning self-worth and thinking, maybe I would be better if I wasn't here. As a Christian, I would not have taken my life, but the thoughts were there. And so I finally went to a doctor, and I said, hey, I'm not sleeping. I said, I just need a sleeping pill. And he said, no, you need an antidepressant. And so I went through a period for about 3 to 6 months where I had to take that. I didn't understand that the antidepressant was designed to just get my thought process back regulated so that I could process properly. And then I no longer had to take it. And for me, during that time, it became a matter of embarrassment and maybe, I'm not as good or as smart or, as I thought I was because I'm in reliance on this pill. But I tell you, when you get there, you have to process those issues. And when you get that clarity, you realize just how low you've kind of sunk down in the ground. And there's nothing wrong with that, because after the fact, when you regroup, you realize people go through circumstances.
Right. Well, let's be clear, because let's talk about that when you talk about medication. Some people need medication for lifelong. They have a biological depression. There has not been a period of time when they don't feel depressed. They feel depressed every single day, have felt depressed for years. And the depression does not go away with regular psychotherapy, and they need depression. Now, there are times when people have life circumstances that cause depression, and with just psychotherapy and being able to process through that situation they're going through, they can come out of the depression. But for some people, they have a biological depression and they do need medication. So I wanted to make that very, very clear, because there are some times when you can take medication short term, especially when you've lost a loved one, you have, grief and loss, and you're having a real hard time with that. But there are some people who need medication long term, and I just really wanted to be clear on that one.
Okay. And so somebody that, like you said, need medication long term, they definitely need to see a doctor and somebody
they do.
To get that diagnosis and say this is what it is.
Right. They need to have a medical evaluation either by a doctor or a psychiatrist.
Does group therapy also help with that?
Group therapy does help with depression, and it just depends on. Some people are not group people. They don't get very much out of the group process. Some people do very well with individual therapy. Sometimes it's the family that's causing the depression, and I do family therapy with clients as well. So, yeah. So, but that's the problem sometimes. But I just wanted to be clear on that, because people ask me all the time, well, I have to take medication forever. And for some people, yes, they need to take medication. Having depression can be like it is a medical illness. It's just like if you have diabetes, your pancreas doesn't work very well. If you have hypertension, your heart's not working very well. The brain is an organ. And so because it's an organ, sometimes it doesn't function the way it's supposed to function. And sometimes there are early stressors or trauma in life that cause the chemical changes in the brain or the chemical imbalance. And there's not much you can do about that. It's already been set in stone. So you need medication, and that's just the truth about it.
And I think it's noteworthy to talk about it from a gender-based circumstance, because I find in my experiences that men have a harder time coming to grips with depression and that label than females. And that's very key. I've heard men say, well, then that brings to question my masculinity, because I'm not able to handle a situation. And if I admit I'm depressed, that means I'm weak. And I think that we need to get over that misnomer that depression does not signal weakness. It is an illness, as Tracy said, and it's something that you have to deal with. If it plagues you, you need to resolve it, because she'll tell you if you let it linger, it worsens.
Right. Over time, if you just leave it untreated, it gets worse and worse. You'll need more medication or a higher dosage of medication to manage the symptoms. So I always tell people the earlier you can get treated for it, the better. And then sometimes depression can be caused by alcohol or drug abuse. It can be caused by certain medical conditions. So like as a therapist, I usually have people get a medical evaluation. If they haven't seen a doctor in a long time, we always try to rule out the medical first before we even say it's a depression.
Right.
Because sometimes medical illness can cause depression. Sometimes certain medications that you've been put on can cause symptoms of depression. So we always ask you to go and get a medical evaluation. But sometimes it's just stressful life events. And once that life event happens and you transition through it, then you can cope. But that's not for everybody. Some people do have a biological depression. You guys also spoke about suicidal thoughts. If you are having suicidal thoughts, we call that severe depression, and you really do need to get treatment for it. Sometimes people have suicidal thoughts where they have an intent and a plan and are wanting to act on it. Sometimes people just have a wish that they just don't wake up, and we call that a wish to be dead. But regardless of what kind of thoughts you have, if they're related to that, you definitely need to get treatment for it.
Yeah.
Because that's not normal.
Now, from a male's perspective, I went through a situational depression. I lost my wife in 2010, and as a man, when you have children, bills, finances, when everything is on you, when you become in a state of complete destitute, that's when you hit your bottom. But I didn't realize or recognize where I was because I was so focused on taking care of everybody else,
Right.
taking care of the family, taking care of the kids, making sure that everything was taken care of, and I didn't take care of myself. So when I got to that point, I started to self-medicate myself with alcohol. And so there was some times where that's how I made it. And then I realized that, hey, this is not the right way to go because my family, my children are relying on me. And so once I hit that point in my life where I knew there was a better way, and I kept my faith in God, I kept trusting that he would get me through this because he did it before.
Right.
But sometimes you don't recognize where you are. And once I recognized where I was, that's when I made the decision, this should not be my focus. My focus should be on doing what's best for my children and showing them what a real man looks like, because men, we don't like talking about that type of stuff. We want to always seem as though that we are on top of the world and everything is perfect.
Right.
When actually we're crying on the inside, we're hurting on the inside, and we're walking in our day-to-day life like everything is fine.
Right.
But that's that facade that we put up. But when you really, really get down to it and you find somebody that you can talk to, that's where you get the help. When you're able to talk about it.
That's right. That's what we're talking depression right here on the Gospel Roundtable. We have Tracy, Erica, and Edward in the studio with us, and we'll be right back on the other side of the break. This is the Gospel Roundtable.
That's right. Put your hand. And we're gonna agree together. We're gonna agree together. Here we go. What you gonna say? Let the word do the work. Let me hear y'all.
What's up, everybody? This is your man Norris J, and you're listening to the Gospel Roundtable on KVCE 1160 AM, Saturdays at 4 o'clock.
This is Darryl McGriff, host of the Gospel Roundtable, the best gospel talk show on radio. Join us every Saturday at 4 p.m. on KVCE Radio 1160 AM. Also, you can check us online at kvceradio.com. Make sure you tune in for the Gospel Hot Topic of the Day. And if you want to put your 2 cents in, call the Gospel Hotline at 214-787-1160. This is Can't Miss Radio, the Gospel Roundtable.
Let's get back to Eden, live on top of the world. Yeah, sing it to somebody. Let's get back to Eden, live on
Yes, y'all. Hey, we want to get on back to Eden. Get my little grass skirt on. I'll be like, hey. What? This is the Gospel Roundtable that you're listening to right here. And we have the crew, plus we have Tracy, Erica, and Edward in the house. We are discussion. I put discussion and depression together.
Oh,
ain't that something? We are discussing depression. There we go. And we're having a great, not a good conversation, but a great conversation about it. So y'all keep on going. What's next? Go ahead.
Well, my question is, you're talking about depression and getting a treatment, and, it may be clinical and the different types of depression. But first, in order for a person to even seek help, they have to recognize that they do have a problem. And what are the steps, even if they don't see it and someone else sees that, how can someone approach them and ask them, about depression, or even have the discussion of depression with them, or whatever it is that they may be going through at that point in time? So how would me, for instance, if I see somebody in my family or friend that I think may have depression, or going through that, what would be the best way for me to approach them and try to get help for them?
I mean, the best way to approach it is just in a very loving way and saying, I really have concern for you. I love you, but I do have concern for you, and here's why. Because it is a very sensitive subject. When it comes to depression, a lot of times people are in denial about it. They don't want to get help because of the embarrassment and the stigma that comes with depression. So just coming from a very loving place and telling them about what it is you observe in them that makes you think that they have depression. But the person themselves, they just have to tell the truth. They have to stop being in denial and really tell themselves the truth, because a lot of times when you have depression, you can hardly function. You have to force yourself to get out of bed, force yourself to do daily tasks, housework, force yourself to take care of your children, force yourself to even get dressed in the morning. And a lot of times people just don't want to tell the truth about their situation. They're not doing so well at work. They're getting written up frequently, or they're missing several days at work or several days at school. So people just really have to be honest about it with themselves.
And the truth is that even if you approach them in the most loving way and you've prayed about it, they have to be willing to receive it, and they have to be in a place where they're willing to admit that it exists so that they can get the help. Mm-hmm. That's a key piece.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask too, sometimes even if a person may think that they may be going through a state of depression and may want to go get help, now when they get to that point, is that classified in a sense as having some type of mental illness?
This is the thing, and I think that's the biggest stigma with people getting help and actually going to see a therapist or a psychiatrist. We do call it a mental health disorder, and so sometimes people, are afraid of that stigma. But it is confidential, and it is your privacy is maintained. We have federal laws and state laws with regards to that. So I work with a lot of clients who work for corporations and businesses and so forth, and they work every day for a living. But certainly as a therapist, no one would ever know that they came to my office, because I have to respect their confidentiality, and that's just the law. That's the federal law. With
that, when you say, listen to somebody as a clinically depressed, but they would have to show those, that would be something that's ongoing, like that long-term type thing. If I just come in there one session and we talk, and I'm like, oh, you're right, okay, I'm good now, and I'm gone, so I don't get classified as mentally depressed by just coming in and talking to you one time.
No. What we usually do is what we call it a psychosocial assessment, and we assess all the different areas in your life psychologically, emotionally, socially, occupationally, educationally, if you're an adolescent. And before I generally give someone that diagnosis, I do a careful and thorough evaluation, because sometimes there are different codes that we use. It could be an adjustment disorder, which means that you are having some depressive symptoms related to going through an adjustment because you're dealing with a very stressful situation. So it could just be adjustment disorder. It could be grief or loss and bereavement, but that's all under depression. But there are different codes that we use to classify different what we call disorders. We really shouldn't call it a disorder. I don't even know why they use that term, but that's what it's called, unfortunately. But we are very careful, especially me as a therapist. I know that my clients are very concerned about their medical records, so I'm very careful in how I document and the diagnosis that I give. I always tell my clients, why don't you go and get a medical evaluation? If you haven't been to a doctor in a long time, go get a medical evaluation. Make sure your blood levels are good, and make sure you're doing okay physically, because it could be your physical.
Right.
That's the problem.
I was going to I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask too, then kind of piggyback on what you just said. I went to my doctor, and I always have these sit downs with him first before I go through my exams or whatever. And I was just really stressed out. And before I even got to my exam, he says, "Oh, you're depressed." And he starts to write me out a prescription for some Lexapro. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like, I'm not depressed, So why are you writing? He says, "Oh, I just tried. It'll, calm you down and regulate you and everything." But I was sitting there thinking, why do he's a different type of doctor, but are all doctors trained to look for symptoms of, certain types of depression or things like that?
They're not trained to look for it, but we ask questions and you tell us how you're doing, and based on what you say, like some of the symptoms that I just talked about earlier in the show, then it tells me if you have at least 7 of the symptoms, 5 to 7 of the symptoms, it's very likely that you are even have an adjustment disorder or a major depression disorder, or dysthymia. But I have to ask a whole lot of questions because, I'm asking questions about how long you've had the symptoms, how moderate are your symptoms, are there any situations going on in your life that could be causing the symptoms? But when I have clients that tell me I've always been depressed, I've been depressed since I was 5 years old. Like, let's just face it, that's a clinical depression. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been a time when they've ever did not wake up depressed. Mm-hmm. So, and they just have to be honest about it.
I have go ahead.
I went through a period where we in our family, we had just a spiral of deaths. It just back to back. And they were very close family members. It wasn't like, down the line family member. I mean, really close. And then when I got to my sister, that was very traumatic because we were so close growing up. And so to watch her wither before my eyes and just wither away on me and just dealing with that day in, day out and taking care of. And then, at that time too, I was at the pivotal point with my job is very stressful, very, very stressful. So then coming home, take care of her. And then right after that with my mom, like, boom, I mean, just back to back. I mean, it was just like, whoa. And then I started slipping into depression. At first, I didn't even realize. Actually, my husband recognized it first because I didn't even notice. Like, I just didn't have the same level of energy and enthusiasm. Yeah. And so he noticed it first. But the thing is, I can say from this, I do believe in the counseling. I do believe in counselors, and I think all of that it's okay. Because like you said, there are some points in time where some people don't think it's okay, and it is. Though God give us people, doctors, obviously things we can use. But I just learned from my experience, I feel like all of that is good. And some people, like you said, you use that. Use whatever you have to use. God give us natural things to use. But I think what worked for me is the word of God can be whatever you allow it to be. Some people would never think that they could be healed of whether it's depression or whatever it is, because the word can be whatever you allow it to be too. And if you never think that you could be healed of something by God's word or just him doing it for you, some people never could because they could never receive that at that level. But like he was saying, you still, you have to have the spiritual part of it too. Like you said, natural, spiritual. Obviously, you have to use wisdom and keep things balanced because some people go all one way and not all the other. And like she said, some people have to have that natural. But for me, I was slipping into that. And I remember one time when we were going and we were putting the makeup at the funeral home on my sister. And I was watching all 3 of us was there. It was getting her dressed, and they said, well, I got to have a sedative. I can't do this. I remember my aunt said, I can't do this. I got to have a sedative. And my other aunt said, D, I'm taking a pill. And I went in that bathroom, and I'm telling you, I just really literally just, asked God to really, really help me. And I prayed, and he did. He strengthened me. And I came back out of there, and I was like, oh, my God, I wasn't even nervous anymore. So I'm just saying from experience, spiritual application, it really can help you in the midst of that too. If you allow God and His Word, if you take God's Word is a medicine.
Alrighty, yo, we got that word, that spiritual word, but we got to go right now. This is the Gospel Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this, so we can get some more spiritual word in us on this depression. We'll be right back on the Gospel Roundtable.
Yeah.
This is Chevelle Hennington, co-host of the Gospel Roundtable. Listen live every Saturday at 4 p.m. on KVCE 1160 AM.
Yes, y'all. We're back on the Gospel Roundtable right here. We got JC, the Divine Diva, Miss Kathy, the Lady D, and me, Darryl McGriff, your host of the Gospel Roundtable. Also, Miss Erica, Edward, and Tracy. We're talking depression. And JC, what is your question, sir?
Well, coming from the side as a minister and a Christian counselor, one of the wonderful situations I grew up in the Baptist church, they always talked about how that saints of God cannot be depressed. That they can be oppressed, and that's because of the trick of the enemy, but they cannot be depressed. And we've been talking about it during the break. Even us as saints of God, we feel ashamed that we have to deal with depression. I know me, myself, I've been in ministry for 20 years and dealing with Christian counseling for 10. And so you're listening to other people's problems and dilemmas and situations. And not only that, you're also dealing with your own problems, situations, dilemmas, and situations. And it can cause a level of depression to come about you. But as our brother said earlier, it's because we are men, and then you put on the title pastor or minister or such. You don't want even to be looked or criticized that you may have that depression, because it is a sign of weakness. And we can recognize it's hard for saints of God to believe that there is a situation and not a weakness.
And that's when I direct people back, speaking on what you're talking about, to the 22nd chapter of Luke, when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he was anguished, and it said he was so anguished that the sweat was almost as like blood. And and if Jesus can suffer in that way, then clearly it can plague us as human beings. So we have to recognize that while we have those tools, we have our Bible on which we can rely to help us overcome. And sometimes that is with medication. Right. We're not superhuman where it can't plague us. And so we have to be cognizant that those issues are very real, and we have to not be in denial enough to get the help when we need the help.
And it has to be balanced, just as a summary, balance to everything. I do believe for every natural correlation, there's a spiritual correlation. So obviously you have to have balance. And like you said, take your medicine if you need it. And at the same time, why not just continue to believe God at that same time? Hey, God, you know what? I'm taking this medicine right now, but I trust you. You said your word is health to all of my flesh, all of my navel, my bones. Hey, take all the medicine you need, but at the meantime, still believe God that, you know what, greater days are ahead. This is a temporary thing that some people may be going through, and you continue to believe God's word, because ultimately that medicine is going to just treat symptoms. It's not going to permanently, get you fixed off of it. It's going to help with the symptoms.
And let's get what you just said, because the thing is, like I tell a lot of my clients, it's not supposed to make you numb where you just don't feel anything. You take the medication to help you cope with your symptoms, but you still have to cope with life. And a part of being healthy is coping. And so a part of coping, like you said, is sometimes, talking to others, getting therapy, but constantly being in prayer and reading your Bible. I'm a therapist, but also I provide Christian counseling, but I can't tell you how many times I tell my clients to read the word and to pray to help to manage their symptoms. But there are some people who experience trauma, early trauma in life, such as neglect or abandonment or abuse, physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. And the brain is constantly developing until we are age 25. And sometimes those early traumas can change the chemical of the brain. And so the depression becomes a biological depression that needs to be treated with medication. You have, Vietnam vets or veterans that come back from war who have experienced trauma as well. And sometimes they need medication as well. So I just wanted to be really clear on that if you do need medication, there's nothing wrong with taking medication. The brain is an organ of the body, just like it's your heart or your pancreas. So if you have diabetes, you take medication to manage your diabetes. If you have hypertension, you take medication for that. And if you have depression, you take medication for that. The whole point is to be healthy and whole. Okay. And you can be whole with the word, and I do agree with that, but still, sometimes you just need medication.
Mm-hmm. Edward, you got anything else to say? I know the women just in here just dominating the conversation, man. Go ahead, say what you got to say, Edward.
The only thing I will add is just talk to somebody. You know, when you can start to talk about it, that's when you'll start to heal. And men, we don't like to have communication anyway, but whoever we have that we trust, that we can talk about it, because your friends recognize if you're starting to drink too much, if you're starting to have attitudes, they can tell when something is going on. And so if you just ask that one question, hey, let's talk about it, what's going on? And if you can break that barrier, that's how I got over it. I was able to talk about it. And once I started to talk about it and accept what was going on, then I was able to heal. And I kept praying. I kept faith, because I knew, he's gotten me through things before, and I definitely can get over this.
Okay. So, Tracy, Eric, whoever, like I said, in the churches, how can we help the saints when the pastor is telling them, well, just go pray on it?
Well, let me take that question, because that's why
he said, I'll take it.
That's why we do what we do in the Prison Breakers. We are, I'll call us a paraministry, because in many ways the churches are not always equipped to deal with that issue. And so when you come outside of the church, there are Christian counselors or there are Christian life coaches like us who are equipped to help you deal with that situation from a biblical point of view, but from a life practical perspective as well. And so you say, I hear people say, well, I went to my pastor and he told me, I'll pray for you. And I say, next time he says that, you say, thank you, I appreciate your prayers. And in the meantime, here's an additional resource in case somebody else comes back in here, because this is how I got help. But you have to be willing to go and do your own work as well. And if it's not in the church where you are, then you have to seek out those sources. And coaching is a great alternative if you're not at a point where therapy is something that you need. And a therapist will identify whether or not you need therapy or whether coaching will benefit you.
Yeah, because let me be clear on that. Because like with coaches, they may not necessarily have the clinical background or the license to diagnose you and to treat clinical depression. In fact, they don't have the license for that. The time at which, like me I am a therapist by trade, but I'm also a life coach. But the time at which I send people to coaching is when they've gone through therapy, they're stable, okay? They're stable mentally and emotionally, and now they just need some practical skills, some practical ways to either set goals for themselves, to do some career planning, to make some changes in their lives, or to date better, or to have a better relationship. They need life skills. Then that's when coaching comes in. But before coaching comes in, we have to get you stable clinically before you can get to a coaching environment. But from a church's perspective, what churches can do is make sure that you have people that you know that you can refer your church members to, and just be honest. I mean, tell the truth. You know that people are depressed. You yourself as a minister or ministerial staff may be experiencing depression. So have a referral base. Be willing to refer people out to a clinical therapist or a psychiatrist. Some churches do real well with that. You have some big, larger mega churches who have in-house therapists that they have actually hired and brought on staff. And when someone has a clinical mental health disorder, they send them to the therapist. So if you're a smaller church and you don't have those resources in-house, I would say just have a referral base that you can refer people to. Yeah. And encourage people to get help.
Right. And see, and as we were talking, how JC was saying about the pastors and how they're trying to deal with everybody's stuff as well as their life stuff. And if they're not recognizing their own depression, then they can't really help anybody else with their depression. So, what you got, Kathy? Nothing.
Well, could I invite, I'd like to say that we've got an event coming up, and we're dealing with this issue of depression, which plagues our community as it relates to the men. We have a men's retreat coming up April the 25th through the 27th. It will take place at Camp Hoblitzell in Midlothian, Texas. You can get registered for that retreat at www.theprisonbreakers.com, or you can give one of us a call at area code 214-810-2463. And I encourage you to just come out. It won't be the total focus of our retreat, but we will be dealing with those issues as they relate to men.
All right. Miss Kathy, what you got?
Well, I just want to close out with this from Deuteronomy 31:8. The Lord himself goes before you and will not be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid and do not be discouraged.
That's what I'm talking about. This was the Gospel Roundtable. And on behalf of everybody, JC, the Divine Diva, Miss Kathy, the Lady D, and the Prison Breakers Ministry LLC, we will see y'all next Saturday, same time, same place, on the same AM FM station, Facebook, Twitter, tweets, whatever we got going on. Get a hold of us right here on the Gospel Roundtable. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Have a good week.
I said say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.